half hour ago, it was almost like somebody turned a faucet on. The snow just started falling hard. I do know that Republican Benjamin Rogers called Lichty personally to congratulate her on her victory. She said he was very gracious about it. Democrats said they didn't trust McCarthy as Speaker. So do you think today's vote makes it more likely Republicans find a leader who is actively working across the aisle or takes a harder turn to the right to serve the people who orchestrated McCarthy's removal?
Yeah, it's quite honestly, that's an unknown.
Earlier, there was an ambulance coming down Ireland Road, and they had to wait minutes to get from the back of the line actually past the intersection. Look at this. Can you see this as it's blowing? Eileen, our photographer. These are the kind of gusts we're dealing with. The whole reason that it was moved up to a February date was to be more part of the national campaign conversation. And that seems to have failed. Is that an appropriate description when there are legitimate concerns about the tens of thousands of civilians either being killed in Gaza or starving right now? You can see why there's a need for them and also why there's a need to stay off the road. Look, it's even piling up on the cars that are already driving. It's only been going on for about an hour in terms of this heavy snow, and it's fallen down these fat, thick flakes. I don't know if you remember last Friday, St. Joseph County 911 dispatch said they had a 50% increase in calls, and it was a lot less than this. This is the start of Judson Everett's 2.5-hour commute. If there's no traffic.
The commute has just kind of become a normal part of life.
He's a professor of sociology at Loyola University. During the school year, traveling to the Chicago campus from Warsaw 3 times a week.
They think I'm crazy.
In a few years, his drive may be limited to a short trip downtown.
I actually often wonder why we don't have this already.
Warsaw is one of the planned stops along the Midwest Connect corridor, a train route stretching across 5 states, connecting Indiana, the crossroads of America, to Chicago, Illinois, Columbus, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How big is this project, potentially?
Well, it's huge.
Kosciuszko Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Rob Parker sees the return to the tracks as a transformational opportunity. These tracks could directly connect this town of 16,000 to cities with a combined population totaling about 4.5 million. Parker sees it as a new opportunity to build around Warsaw's multi-billion-dollar medical orthopedics industry, attract talent, and develop the city's downtown.
It allows for cities to really start growing again from the core. The car took us out to suburbs, but the core of a city is where the heartbeat of a community is.
A train route to Chicago has been discussed since before current Warsaw Mayor Joe Talmer was elected in 2012. Even if approved, construction will run past his final day in office at the end of his current term.
It's a huge project, but that's the problem. It's a huge project.
Mayor Talmer says he's learned not to get his hopes up. The location of a potential stop in Warsaw isn't even set in stone. It could be the old train depot, or even overlooking Winona Lake.
I can't get excited because I'm now more realistic than I was then, but I still have a passion to get it done. I mean, I would literally love to jump on the train and head up to Chicago.
At the decommissioned train station in downtown Fort Wayne, which would also be included on the route, President of the Northern Indiana Passenger Rail Association, Fred Lanahan, believes planning is on the fast track. Far enough along, it's not a matter of if this will happen, just when.
You know, we figure our time has come.
The Midwest Connect project is one of 3 grant applications out of Indiana, along with a proposed route from Indianapolis to Chicago and another connecting Louisville to Indy. Federal dollars would cover up to 90% of upfront costs to build the infrastructure. The project would add thousands of construction jobs to build new signaling, side rails to pass freight trains. Then, long-term workers would be needed for upkeep of the track. NIPR studies project revenues would begin covering operating costs in 10 to 14 years. Providing transportation across 5 states, from the heart of 16 communities.
And cheaper transportation for me to go to Chicago, for example, for less than it would cost me to park in downtown Chicago if I drove.
A project like this happens in 3 phases: planning, engineering, and construction. NIPR believes if the $500,000 federal grant comes through to get this project through the planning phase, then the $2.5 billion rail line from Chicago to Pittsburgh, along with the train stops in Valparaiso, Plymouth, and Warsaw, could be here in as little as 4 years.
Much of the emphasis was on highways and roads and the automotive industry and frankly, sprawl. A lot of the oomph in these core cities went out.
The route from Chicago to Fort Wayne will use existing freight line, which shuts down the immediate possibility of high-speed rail. Lanahan says trains would run about 75 to 80 miles per hour, on par with Amtrak service. Then, the hope is to incrementally speed up. But for many areas, it still could be a faster trip to Chicago destinations, even with a shuttle or cab ride from Union Station.
With so much traffic, as you add a lane to these big highways, they fill up.
I just think it gives more people more options.
And for someone like Judson, he's open to ditching the road for the rail if this project can truly connect the crossroads of America. Now on Night Team, it's chaos in Congress. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy voted out of the job in an historic vote. Night Team talks one-on-one with Representative Bill Huizenga to hear how Republicans will rally. New fees for vaccines. The St. Joseph County Health Department sets prices for COVID shots. While the South Shore Line crosses the finish line on a major project to cut the commute to Chicago. And we look ahead to Notre Dame's top 25 matchup with Louisville. The Cardinals quarterback facing the Fighting Irish defense for the 3rd year in a row. So who has the advantage this weekend? Night Team starts now.
Live from ABC 57 studios and broadcast all across Michiana. This is ABC 57 News Night Team.
This is a live look at Capitol Hill, where following a history-making vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, Republican leadership is in limbo. Lawmakers saying tonight there will not be a vote to appoint a new Speaker until next Tuesday. You're on Night Team. I'm Tim Spears. It took just 8 Republicans joining every Democratic representative in the House to make Kevin McCarthy now the first Speaker of the House Congress has ever voted out of the job.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
McCarthy telling lawmakers tonight he will not run again for Speaker. No Republicans from Indiana or Michigan voted to vacate McCarthy, while every Democratic representative voted to kick him out. Joined now by Michigan Congressman Bill Huizenga, who voted to keep McCarthy as Speaker. So what does today's vote say about the Republican Party's ability to govern?
Well, it doesn't look good, right? And
McCarthy tonight said this was done by Republicans who want attention, that this was not about policy. Do you agree?
For the most part, yes, I think that is accurate.
Well, and Democrats said they didn't trust McCarthy as Speaker. So do you think today's vote makes it more likely Republicans find a leader who is actively working across the aisle, or takes a harder turn to the right to serve the people who orchestrated McCarthy's removal?
Yeah, it's quite honestly, that's an unknown. It depends.
And even before next year's election, 6 weeks from now, how does this affect a possible shutdown in November?
Yeah, that is the critical part here.
Michigan Congressman Bill Huizenga, thank you for joining us on a historic night.
I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon. Today, the St. Joseph County Department of Health approves administration of the latest COVID vaccine and another vaccine to help combat RSV. But it's now going to come at a cost for many. ABC 57's Julie Grahowski joins us live outside the County City building with a look at some of the out-of-pocket costs to protect against COVID.
ABC 57 News.
And again, important to note for people underinsured or uninsured, there are options. Thanks, Julianne. The sun sets on a nearly 90-degree day in Michiana, and we could see a 30-degree swing by the weekend. Thanks to Jim for these views from the shoreline. ABC 57 First Warning Neighborhood weather meteorologist Dave Caulfield is tracking the temperatures. It's an up and down week, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
A serious crash in St. Joseph County. You can see the motorcycle left laying in the center of the road. This is at the intersection of Ironwood and where Calvert Street turns into Millburn. Mishawaka police initially responded around 8 o'clock tonight, but now the fatal accident crash team is investigating. ABC 57 is working to learn if the people involved are going to be okay. New details on the South Shoreline Double Track project. Trains will finally start running between Michigan City and Dune Park stops in about 2 weeks, after more than a year of busing passengers between those two stations. Here's ABC 57 anchor Jennifer Copeland. This is now former Concord Community Schools resource officer Eric Schumann. He was fired by the school board last night for sending unwanted communications to a teenage girl who recently graduated from the school where Schumann worked. He may not have done anything illegal, but according to Concord Community Schools, he did do something wrong. In a statement, the district said they investigated an instance of unwanted communications with a recently graduated former student. No crimes were committed, but that kind of behavior still cost an officer his job. In an ABC 57 traffic alert, drivers can now use the brand new northbound lanes of US 31 between Niles and M139 in Berrien Springs. The Michigan Department of Transportation reopening the northbound lanes with brand new asphalt and pavement markings this week. It's part of a $33 million project to repave 12 miles of that busy highway. There's still construction cones, lane shifts, and some other work to be done, but the northbound lanes of US 31 now reopened for traffic. Coming off the big win against Duke, the 10th-ranked Irish go on the road once again to face the undefeated Louisville Cardinals in prime time here on ABC 57. Levon Whitaker looks at how the Notre Dame defense is preparing for a familiar foe who's playing under center.